But we've decided that nobody deserves the gold medal of good more than the hero himself, gi-hun, player 456. This guy is an absolute legend. And don't get us wrong, he has more than his fair share of faults. He has a clear gambling problem, which leads to his debt in the first place, and ultimately in him ending up in the Squid Game. This has also led to a struggle to stay connected to his daughter, who now lives in the US, with her stepfather and gi-hun's ex-wife. But despite all his burdens, he was always a good man who showed compassion and care to others. From something as small as feeding a stray cat to something as substantial as making sure to watch after his deceased teammate's little brother. He was an altruist through and through. What cements him as our most good character, though, is the fact that despite everything he had been through in the Squid Game, he still went back to track down the masterminds behind it and shut it down once and for all. Regardless of how it made him look or how much danger it put him in, he devoted himself to protecting his fellow players from harm as much as possible, going as far as to go back to save a dying player in the first game with only 30 seconds left on the clock. But taking a very close silver medal of good is another Season 1 contestant, Ali, player 199. It's poetic that gi-hun went back to rescue someone during red light, green light in the second season, considering that's the only way he himself survived. As a hardworking, underappreciated family man, Ali used his strength for good throughout the game. We saw it from the very beginning when he saved gi-hun during red light, green light, keeping him from falling out of position with just one arm. He was a genuinely kind, trusting man who was determined to survive for his family's sake while not harming anyone, which would sadly lead to his demise in the marble game. In a very literal sense, Ali's only flaw was that he was just too kind-hearted. The only thing he wanted was whatever was best for his friends and family. Well, that, and for his boss to actually pay him for his work. I mean, yeah, I guess he kinda played a part in having his boss's hand crushed, but until that hand starts signing some paychecks, he's gonna have to strike that one up as learning a lesson. The bronze medal of good goes to a new contestant, gi-hun, player 120. She is a kind transgender woman who, much like Ali, uses her strength to help others to the best of her ability. During red light, green light, she helps gi-hun rescue player 444, showing that she's also willing to risk her neck for the sake of others. Being a former member of the military, she's also able to help a great deal in the revolt in episode 7, protecting her allies and taking out a lot of guards who fully intended to kill them. Her character is awesome, but she's not without flaws. Most notably, after the pentathlon, she votes to continue the games despite knowing how terrified Young-il was of continuing, since they bonded over that game. But let's talk about Junho. You'll remember him as the police officer who infiltrated the Squid Games to find his brother. Similarly to gi-hun, he experienced the majority of the Squid Games terror firsthand, and there's a strong case to be made that the police would have never known about the Squid Game if it weren't for him, even if they still don't exactly believe him. Now, full disclosure, I was kinda under the impression he died in Season 1, so when he showed up in the very first episode of Season 2, having been rescued by the completely trustworthy and not at all treacherous Captain Park, it was a pleasant surprise. From here, he enlists the help of every ally he can find to track down the island the game is being held on, and to rescue gi-hun and the others from it. There's no denying that Junho is a heroic man, but we have to dock a few points for the fact that he doesn't disclose the front man's identity as Inho. His conflicting feelings are definitely valid, sure, but the guy shot you, man. It's not enough to call his character into question, but it's enough to just barely keep him out of our top 3. One of Season 2's most innocent players, Kim Young-mi, player 095, is up next. We don't really get too much of a backstory on her compared to some of the other newcomers. All we know is that she's a sweet, timid girl who has perhaps the most reasonable and realistic reaction to any of these games. Absolute, unadulterated